A web of lies. A story of betrayal and revenge. Chapter 1. The Discovery. I never imagined my life would take such a turn. A sharp, jagged twist that left my heart shredded. My name is Sarah, and for 2 years, I thought I was living my dream. I had a loving boyfriend, Ethan, who promised me forever. We shared a cozy apartment in the heart of the city. A little slice of heaven where the scent of coffee and freshly baked croissants from the cafe across the street floated through the windows every morning. But it was all a lie. I didn't know that yet. But the truth was careening toward me like a freight train. The day I discovered the betrayal started like any other. Ethan texted me that morning to say he'd be working late. He was an advertising executive, always pulling long hours, pitching campaigns and networking with clients. I didn't question it, even though his late nights had been increasing. I thought it was just the nature of his job. How naive I was. That evening, I decided to surprise him. I wanted to bring him dinner, Thai food from his favorite restaurant, and maybe sneak in a few minutes of quality time before he got back to work. I'd been feeling distant from him lately, and I thought a little effort might help us reconnect. I marvel now at my innocence, at how much trust I placed in him. I called his office on my way there, hoping to let him know I was coming. His secretary, Mia, answered, her voice polite but rushed. "Oh, Ethan left hours ago," she said when I asked where he was. My stomach tightened, but I didn't immediately assume the worst. I chalked it up to miscommunication. Maybe he'd gone to a meeting. Or maybe Mia was mistaken. I arrived at his building and made my way to the top floor where his company resided. The receptionist greeted me warmly, but her smile faltered when I asked if Ethan was in. She hesitated before replying. "I don't think he's scheduled to be here tonight. Sarah, did you try his cell?" Quote. I forced a smile, thanked her, and left. By the time I reached the elevator, unease had settled deep in my chest. Something wasn't right. Ethan wasn't at work, and he wasn't home. Where was he? Chapter 2. The Clue. The answer came to me in the form of a single, damning message. As I stepped into the elevator, my phone buzzed with a notification. It was Ethan's email, a joint account we shared that he'd forgotten to log out of on my laptop weeks ago. I hadn't thought much of it, but tonight, curiosity got the better of me. On instinct, I opened the email app as the elevator descended. The subject line read, "Can't wait to see you tonight, Red Heart." My pulse quickened. It was from Claire, a colleague of his I'd met once at a holiday party. A slender brunette with piercing green eyes and a laugh that seemed just a little too loud whenever Ethan was around. I clicked the email, and the words inside struck me like a physical blow. "Last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you. I'll book the hotel again tonight. Same room, same time. Don't be late. I want all of you." I stared at the screen in disbelief. My breathing grew shallow, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might faint. The elevator doors slid open, and I stumbled out into the lobby, clutching my phone as though it were my lifeline. How could Ethan do this to me? How could he betray me so completely? So casually? The Thai food went cold in my hands as I sat in the car, trying to process what I'd just read. My thoughts spiraled into anger, bitterness, humiliation. For 2 years, I had been his rock, his support system, his everything. But apparently, I wasn't enough. Claire was enough. Chapter 3. The Plan. I don't remember much of the drive home. Only the searing hatred that burned in my chest by the time I reached our apartment. My mind was already racing with plans. I wasn't the type to cry quietly into a pillow. I wasn't going to let Ethan get away with this. If he thought he could live a double life and keep me in the dark, he was sorely mistaken. That night, I stayed up until the early hours, scrolling through emails, piecing together his lies. There were dozens of them. Weekend trips he claimed were work-related. Late nights he spent finishing presentations, even a series of receipts for lavish dinners at restaurants we'd never been to. Claire was his mistress, and he hadn't even bothered to hide it well. It was insulting, really, how little respect he had for me. But what hurt most was the betrayal itself. Ethan was the man I'd planned to marry, the man I'd shared every vulnerable part of myself with. And now, all I felt was rage. I wanted revenge. Not petty, fleeting vengeance, but something that would burn into his memory. Something he could never escape. Chapter 4, Setting the Trap. The next morning, I called into work and took the day off. I needed time to execute my plan. And I wasn't going to rush it. Revenge required precision, patience, and a dose of creativity. I started by gathering evidence. I screenshotted every incriminating email and saved them into a folder on my laptop. I printed them out, too, just in case. Next, I accessed Ethan's shared calendar and discovered exactly what I was looking for. His next rendezvous with Claire. According to the calendar, he had blocked off 2 hours for a client meeting at the Starlight Hotel, one of the most luxurious establishments in the city. A quick search online confirmed that it was popular for discreet hookups. Perfect. With the date and time in hand, I sprang into action. I called my best friend, Jessica, and filled her in on everything. Jess had been wary of Ethan since the beginning, but she hadn't pushed the issue because she knew I loved him. Now, her protective side flared to life, and she offered to help in any way she could. Together, we devised the plan. Phase 1. Catch him in the act. Phase 2. Expose him. Phase 3. Watch his carefully crafted world crumble. Chapter 5. The Confrontation. The day of the rendezvous arrived. My nerves were frayed, but I was fueled by adrenaline and anger. Jess and I stationed ourselves in the hotel lobby, both dressed inconspicuously. I wore sunglasses and a scarf to conceal my identity. Jess carried a camera, ready to snap photos as soon as Ethan and Claire arrived. It didn't take long. At exactly 7 p.m., Ethan strolled through the revolving doors, his suit impeccably tailored, his smile easy and carefree. Claire followed moments later, her hand brushing against his arm. I watched them laugh as they approached the front desk, where Ethan confirmed the reservation. My stomach churned, but I stayed focused. "Let's go," I whispered to Jess. We followed them from a distance, taking the elevator up to the 5th floor, where their room was located. The corridor was plush and quiet, the air tinged with the scent of lavender. We waited until they disappeared into room 514 before I made my move. I knocked on the door with force. It was a bold move, but I wanted to catch them completely off guard. After a few seconds, the door opened, and Ethan stood there, his expression shifting from surprise to dread in an instant. "Sarah?" he stammered, his voice thin. I shoved the door open and stepped inside, my eyes landing on Claire, who was perched on the edge of the bed. She blanched when she saw me, her jaw slack with shock. "Surprise," I said coldly, my voice dripping with venom. "What's wrong, Ethan? You look like you've seen a ghost." Chapter 6. The Fallout. The confrontation that followed was explosive. Ethan tried to stammer out excuses, but I wasn't having it. I laid every piece of evidence bare. The emails, the calendar appointments, the receipts. Claire tried to defend herself, claiming she didn't know he had a girlfriend. That only made me laugh bitterly. "You didn't know?" I snapped. "You didn't think to ask why this man who was spoiling you with weekend getaways never mentioned me? Spare me the innocent act." Jess recorded everything, her camera capturing every damning word. Ethan begged me to stop, but I was relentless. By the time I left the hotel room, I was shaking with fury, but I felt a sense of grim satisfaction. This was just the beginning. The next day, I took the evidence to his boss. Ethan's company had a strict code of conduct, especially regarding workplace relationships. I knew he had used company resources to fund some of his escapades. Expense accounts for dinners, hotel bookings disguised as client entertainment. It was all in the records. And his boss was appalled. Within a week, Ethan was fired. News of his affair spread quickly through his professional network. And soon, the man who had walked so confidently through life was jobless, disgraced, and clinging to the scraps of his reputation. Chapter 7. Moving on. I wish I could say revenge brought me peace. But the truth is, it was bittersweet. I couldn't erase the pain of betrayal overnight, and healing took time. But exposing Ethan gave me closure. It was my way of reclaiming the power he had tried to steal from me. As for Ethan and Claire, their relationship didn't last. The foundation of lies they'd built was too unstable to survive. Ethan tried to contact me a few months later, apologizing profusely and begging for another chance. But I didn't reply. Some doors are better left closed. Now, a year later, I finally feel free. I've learned to trust my instincts, to value myself more than I ever did before. And most importantly, I've learned that no amount of betrayal can break me. Ethan thought he could destroy me, but he only made me stronger. Certainly. Let's expand and deepen the story by fleshing out the emotional arcs, setting, and resolution, adding the necessary word count to make the narrative feel fully complete and satisfyingly detailed. Chapter 7. Continued. Moving on, but not without closure. The months after Ethan's downfall were a haze of intense emotions. Anger, sadness, relief, and even guilt would visit me in waves when I least expected them. The guilt was what caught me off guard the most. I would think back to the look in Ethan's eyes at the hotel, the stunned, pleading expression of a man who'd just realized his entire life was crashing down around him. Sometimes I even felt sorry for him, despite everything. But when that sympathy started to creep in, I'd remind myself of the pain he inflicted on me, the humiliation, the lies, the countless nights I spent worrying when he said he was working. No, Ethan didn't deserve my pity. Every now and then, I would walk by his old workplace. An imposing glass building with the company's name glowing in bright, white letters across the facade. Harrison and Company. Advertising. Just seeing the sign used to fill me with pride. It was where Ethan built his prestigious career. But after the fallout, the very sight of it gave me a bitter sort of satisfaction. I imagined Ethan's former coworkers whispering about him in the hallways, their expressions a mixture of disbelief and schadenfreude as they gossiped about his spectacular fall from grace. I wanted to hear the details of what happened after his termination. How his colleagues reacted. What Claire told people when they inevitably asked about their affair. But I realized that seeking out those answers wasn't worth my time. I had done my part. I had exposed the truth. The rest wasn't my problem anymore. Instead, I tried to focus on the future. But moving on wasn't as simple as closing that chapter. The truth is, Ethan's betrayal had left scars I couldn't immediately erase. Chapter 8. A Chance Encounter. It had been 6 months since my revenge. I was sitting alone at the same cafe across from my apartment. The cafe Ethan and I had both loved so much. The smell of fresh pastries and roasted coffee beans filled the air, mingling with the hum of conversations and the occasional clink of ceramic coffee cups. I'd avoided this place for months after the breakup, but that morning, I decided it was time to reclaim my space. The baristas greeted me with warm familiarity. They'd seen me so many times with Ethan. But today, I was determined to create new memories here. Ones that didn't involve him. I ordered my favorite latte, took it to a corner table by the window, and pulled out my laptop to catch up on some freelance work. It felt good to focus on something productive. Something that didn't revolve around Ethan or Claire. But just as I was settling in, a voice behind me froze me in place. Sarah? Quote. It was low, hesitant, and achingly familiar. I turned slowly, my heart sinking into my stomach. It was Ethan. He looked different. His suit was gone, replaced by a plain sweatshirt and jeans. Clothes that hung loosely on his thinner frame. His once perfectly styled hair was now disheveled, and there was a tiredness in his eyes that hadn't been there before. He didn't exude the same confidence, the same effortless charm that had once drawn me to him. He looked smaller, worn down. Ethan, I said, barely managing to keep my voice steady. My pulse quickened as anger bubbled beneath my calm demeanor. I had thought about this moment countless times over the past few months, imagining how I'd confront him, what I would say. Now, faced with the reality of it, I wasn't sure I cared enough to engage. I didn't think I'd see you again, he said nervously, his hands shoved into his pockets. Do you mind if I sit for a second? Please? Quote. I hesitated. Every part of me wanted to tell him to go to hell. To remind him that he'd lost the privilege of my time when he decided to cheat on me. But curiosity won out. I wanted to hear what he had to say. Not because I was considering forgiveness, but because I wanted to see him squirm. Fine, I said curtly, gesturing to the chair across from me. He sat down slowly, his movements tentative, like he was afraid I might lash out at any moment. And maybe he wasn't wrong to think that. Chapter 9, the closure I needed. Ethan took a deep breath, avoiding my eyes. I owe you an apology. I crossed my arms, leaning back in my chair. Do you? Because I'm not sure you understand the extent of the damage you caused. His shoulders slumped. I do, Sarah. Believe me, I do. I've had a lot of time to think about it. About everything. And I know I'll never be able to fix what I did to you. Why did you do it? I interrupted, my voice sharp. This was the question that had haunted me since the day I exposed him. Why wasn't I enough? Quote. Ethan flinched, guilt etched into his face. It wasn't about you not being enough. You were more than enough. Sarah, you were incredible. I was the problem. I let my ego get in the way. I started feeling like I deserved more. And I didn't care about the consequences. I was selfish. I thought I could keep it all. My career, Claire, you. I didn't think about how badly it would all fall apart. That's where you're wrong, I said bitterly. You didn't just not think about it. You didn't care. If you'd cared, this never would have happened in the first place. He nodded slowly, but I could see the shame in his eyes. And somehow, it was deeply unsatisfying. His regret couldn't undo the pain he caused. The sleepless nights, or the humiliation. It couldn't give me back the time I wasted on a man who didn't deserve me. I've lost everything, Ethan admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. My job, my reputation. Claire, I'm living with my brother now because I can't afford rent. And I know I deserve it. I wish I could rewind the clock and do things differently. I studied him for a moment. He looked so pathetic, so far removed from the man I had fallen in love with. But I felt no sympathy. I thought about everything I'd been through. The heartbreak, the anger, the long nights crying while he was off with another woman. And finally, I said the words that had been on the tip of my tongue since the day I caught him. I don't forgive you. Ethan's head jerked up, and for a moment, he looked as though I had slapped him. I don't expect you to. Good, I replied, holding his gaze. Because this isn't about you asking for forgiveness. This is about me moving on. I'm done with you, Ethan. I'm done carrying the pain you caused. You're the one who has to live with what you did, not me. For the first time, I felt a sense of closure. Seeing Ethan like this, broken, regretful, was enough. I didn't need to drag him through the mud any further. He was already drowning in it, and I realized then that revenge, while satisfying in the moment, wasn't what truly set me free. It was walking away from him without a second thought. Chapter 10, A New Beginning. That was the last time I saw Ethan. He disappeared from my life completely after that day, and by then, I was ready to let him go. In the months that followed, I focused on myself in a way I never had before. I threw myself into my freelance work, took up yoga, and even started painting again, a hobby I had abandoned during my relationship with Ethan. I reconnected with old friends, went on spontaneous trips, and learned to enjoy my own company. For the first time in years, I felt whole. And then, one day, I met someone new. It wasn't planned or expected. It just happened. His name was Daniel, and he was nothing like Ethan. He was kind, patient, and honest to a fault. He didn't try to charm me with grand gestures or empty promises. He just showed up in my life, steady and reliable, like an anchor. And slowly, I began to trust again. Looking back, I don't regret what I went through with Ethan. As painful as it was, it taught me valuable lessons about strength, self-worth, and resilience. He didn't break me. If anything, he made me stronger. And for that, I'm grateful. Epilogue. The last I heard of Ethan, he had moved to a different city, trying to rebuild his life. I don't wish him ill anymore, but I don't wish him well either. He's a chapter of my life that I've closed, a mistake I'll never repeat. As for me, I'm happy now, truly, deeply happy, because I learned the most important lesson of all. Revenge may feel sweet in the moment, but real healing comes from letting go. And that is exactly what I've done. Total word count, 2,260 plus words.